Welcome to the Martin Bailey Photography Podcast. It's October 7, 2019, and this is episode 680. So today I am really pleased and honored to be sitting in my studio with an amazing abstract photographer, Jack Durner. Jack, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Martin. It's good to be here.
Let me just give the audience a bit of a background on this. So I will share some images in the post, and they'll be at mbp.ac/680 if you can't already see them on your device. But Jack and I have recently, over the last 2 months, 6 weeks or so, gotten together a total of 3 times to work on, I think it was 12 prints.
I think 12.
Yeah. And these are prints of Jack's amazing abstract work. I go so far as to call them masterpieces, and I think you'll appreciate why I'm saying that as we get into this. But Jack had basically commissioned me to help him to create a number, like I say, 12 large format canvas prints of his work. And we're going to talk about this because it really is beautiful. And it's also incredible to see the transformation between what Jack originally shoots and what he makes them into. So before we get into that, well, first of all, Jack, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into photography?
Well, I can't say that I got into photography, but I just remember from early age having a camera and enjoying taking photos.
Yeah.
I started out with a Kodak Instamatic.
Oh, wow.
So I guess that tells you about from what generation I come from. And in high school, I took a photography class. And at that time, I was doing, of course, darkroom work.
Yeah.
And we used a single, not a DSLR, that's now, but a single lens reflex camera.
Yeah.
I think it was, a Yashka?
I've got one of those down there, yeah.
Yeah.
Twin lens.
Yes, a twin lens reflex camera. And the instructor would just say, go out and shoot. And of course, my friends and I, we would go out and shoot. And sometimes we would go off campus, which we didn't, of course, tell anybody that. But probably in the images that we took them, they could figure out that we were on the school campus.
Yeah.
But I always enjoyed doing that. And also, when I went to college, I studied biology and teaching, and that's what I went into. But at that time, for my art requirements, I took, again, black and white photography and then color photography, where I was doing some color printing.
Yeah, wow. I've never done actual printing. I've done black and white development. Never got into color development, and so I'm really envious of that experience. What brought you to Japan?
Came to Japan to study martial arts.
Really?
Yes. When I went to school, my first time, I got into martial arts there, and I got so interested that I decided that I wanted to come to Japan and study martial arts here.
Yeah.
I really don't practice anymore because I have time, and as you get older, the body parts don't really agree with that kind of exercise, if you want to call it that.
Yeah. You still work out in that?
I try to work out. I've actually got into a Muay Thai. Which I like to train in. I certainly don't go into a ring and fight. But I just love the training.
Yeah, and just a quick shout out. I believe it was at the gym that you met our mutual friend, Brian Wood Koyua, who is the person that told you about me.
Yes, that's right.
So thanks, Brian. You're a wonderful person, as we all know. And a wonderful photographer as well. He's another very
I like
talented.
his what he's got on Instagram. I like his street photography.
Yeah, he's amazing. So tell us a little bit about the images that we've just made these prints of. First of all, what led you to making your first image in that style?
Well, Yes, I can't pinpoint the start in image, but I just have always been interested in abstract. And when I'd like to go for photo walks,
Yeah.
and I take my camera, and I don't look for anything in particular, but I just notice over time that I tended to be interested in rust and things that just where you have to kind of use your imagination to see something.
You certainly do that. So what I'm going to do, I mean, we'll actually, let's take a look at the before for your Ascension shot or Ascension 1. You've got a whole bunch of these, and I'll embed some images into this blog post of most of the prints that we made. But I'm looking here. You brought along a stitched photograph with 3 stitched images of a panel that's rusted, and when the viewers look at this, they're going to say, "Okay, a panel that's rusted." It's what you make from this that's so amazing. But so you're walking along and you see something like this, and you decide, "Okay, I'm going to make something out of that." What is it? Is it just the rust itself, the patterns? What attracts you to this?
I think it's the patterns that I see something in this. Maybe I've watched too many science fiction movies or read too much science fiction.
Yeah.
But yes, this is a whole wall of this metal fence, and I discovered it while walking my dog, and I just, wow, I really need to come back here and photograph this and work with it. But I probably shot these maybe 3 years ago, and I put them in the computer and then went back to them after some time and started working with them.
And so, I mean, the next thing I'll do is I'll put up the final image. So here we have, this is just, every time I look at these, it's amazing. So you made this out of the first image that we looked at. What's the process like? I mean, where do you bring all of this color and detail from?
Well, I stitch them together in Lightroom.
Yeah.
And then I do make some adjustments in there. And this might not be for every image, but I will do, contrast, highlights, shadows, perhaps, and I will sometimes saturate it a little bit before I bring it into Photoshop, where, again, I do basic adjustments.
You say some adjustments. It's obvious that, having just worked with you as we were doing our proofing, you know sort of what all of the various settings for the layers do and everything, and you've obviously got a lot of Photoshop experience.
Well, I'm definitely no expert, but I have a process that
I know Photoshop, but I'm sure that you know a lot about the stuff, especially what you're using here. I mean, say, for example, what will you do to bring out that orange? Because it's really, although it's there in the original, it's like just saturation changes? I
do saturation changes. And then once I feel that I'm done with that, or I feel happy with it, I work with some plugins. I work with Nick software. And again, I will make adjustments, and then if I like it, I'll keep it. If I don't, I will throw away the layer. Or if I make a, when you make the layer where you can go back and forth, I've already forgot what that's called.
I know what you mean.
Yes.
Anyhow, we'll move on.
We'll move on. All right, it's probably going to come to me later. But I just work with the images until I feel that this is what I want. I don't start off with the image, I got to do this. It's got to go in this direction. I let the images just kind of play out how they go where they go.
Yeah. So I'm looking through some of the images here that we shot with you as as we dried these, and we just to explain for the listeners what we did. The first 4 images that we did over a Pixels to Pigment workshop weekend with the goal of making 4 images. And then you came back for another one. But then on the last visit, we did the super long ones, which some of them were 60-inch frames. And I've got some photos that I'll put into a gallery in the post, showing them. What we did was I ran some nylon twine across our sort of the second room downstairs, which is where the printer is. And we hung them up. and we just, because these things really, they need a little bit of time to dry before you stretch them and stuff. So on the first day that you came on the third visit, so I'm saying you've been 3 times. It's actually been multiple days. And you can see here, we've got a photo where you're standing between 5 of the prints. And it's basically, you can see how big they are. I'll put in some images of you with the prints just to show again how big they are. And there's also, there's one of them, the last one that we did, looks like to me it looks like roses.
Okay. See, that's what I want people to see whatever they want to see in these images. I mean, I obviously have my ideas about what I see, but that's what I like about abstraction.
Yeah.
People can see whatever they want to. My girlfriend, she says, "Oh, I see this, I see that," and I was like, "Wow, I never saw that before."
Yeah.
But
so, I mean, like I say, I'll put these all. We're not going to go into each of these photos, but we shot them really to show the process and how we did this. But then towards the end, we
I'm smiling there.
Yeah, I got a smile out of you for your.
She is my partner. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, so I managed to get a smile for her there. But this is, I mean, it's really they're big. Another thing I want to talk about here as well is you mentioned earlier that you used Color Effects Pro for some of the processing, and I realized that you also added these borders in Color Effects Pro. I recognized them straight away, not because they're overused or anything, but they're really nice borders, and they really suited your work and how we did them.
That's I like that border because it's of course the software is doing the work on the border itself and making the decisions, but based on the contrast and the colors. But I just like how it's random. I like randomness, and I felt that this border suits these works.
And I really like. I mean, it was your idea to not mirror these out. You wanted to use that border. Obviously, that's why you'd put them on there. But if you look at the photos, when we stretched them onto the canvas on the stretcher bars, we actually made it so that we had a little bit of white around the borders, and then we just left the canvas color around the edges. So when you look at them from the side, they really stand out nicely on these big 1 3/4 inch stretcher bars that we used. And we also decided to put these onto Breathing Colors Silverado canvas, which is a metallic canvas. And I thought that really suited your work because of the high gloss, but also as you were just saying when we were preparing to talk, when the light hits them, it really brings them out.
Yes. I was, again, that was the decision, what paper, what media should I use for this? And I decided I wanted a canvas. I wanted something with texture in it that kind of adds to the image itself.
Yeah.
And also these colors are so saturated. I need something that would work well with that. And this media certainly does that.
Yeah. I mean, as you know, we sat through all of these. We did multiple tests for some of them. But the Silverado is one of the more capable canvases or substrates. It certainly has a relatively wide gamut for printers are always going to struggle because they're working with a limited number of inks. Although my printer has 11 inks and a chroma optimizer, you saw how difficult it was for some of your images to get the blues, those indigos.
Yes,
it was hard to get some of them out.
Certainly had some difficulty with that, and also the reds they're so out of gamut that I was concerned about that, but they came out really nice.
Yeah, we did the gamut check in Photoshop on pretty much all of them as we prepared them, and some of them, most of the image was out of gamut.
Yes.
Actually, just touching
maybe perhaps that's how I think.
and that's fine. I mean, a lot of my vivid work is out of gamut as well. But it was just so fun. I remember sort of giggling like teenagers as we looked at some of these. But
Yeah, how much ink are we going to have to waste to get this one right?
but it was fun. And one technical thing that I came across for the first time with your work, that it had us stumped for a little bit for about an hour, I think, maybe a little bit less. But for the first time, I mean, you and I both, we use Profoto RGB to store our master copies because it gives you the most wiggle room when you're working with your images. But for the first time, I actually came across work that we had to convert to Adobe RGB before printing, because there was the first one that we came across, and there would have been more, where there was like an indigo color in there, or like a denim.
Yes, I remember.
And it was just not printing.
Yeah,
it was the print was coming out with all of the other colors, and this one specific band of color was just black. And we tried a few things, we couldn't bring it out, and then I tried converting to Adobe RGB, and it printed. And so what that's telling us is that the image was actually in Profoto being represented in an area that we can see on the screen, but we could not print. The printer just did not understand. So that was a great thing for me to learn as someone that is printing. And we also find,
I believe we converted them all to Adobe RGB.
Just because of the nature of your work.
Yes.
As we printed all of these, we just converted to Adobe RGB. And that's fine, because the printer profile shows us that, for the work in the end result as an export format, Adobe RGB is fine, because it's not cramping the image, it's not shoehorning it at all. But the other thing that we noticed, or I did some tests trying to figure out what was happening, and I noticed as well that although normally we did print all of your images with rendering intent set to
perceptual.
Perceptual, that's it. And I have normally always print in perceptual, but for the first time I found that in addition to changing to Adobe RGB, we were able to get good results by using the rendering intent for relative colorimetric, I believe absolute colorimetric, and the saturation also worked. But normally for RGB photography, perceptual is fine. So you've pushed the envelopes.
Well,
in many
that's
different
good.
ways.
I think this is always a challenge.
Yeah.
And I remember I saw a well-known photographer some years back at the CP Plus. Mm. And he's from old school, of course. And somebody asked him, what do you think about digital photography? And his response was, it's too easy. Well, perhaps in some respects it is, because you can see your results and then make adjustments. But certainly digital printing proves, as these images prove, it's not. It's an art form.
Yeah,
and you certainly hit the nail on the head here.
Yeah,
because they came out very nicely. I'm really happy with them.
That's great. I'm really pleased, and I think it was an educational sort of experience for both of us. We both sort of learnt a lot from this assignment. Obviously, I'm going to put all of these images on the blog. We'll let people see what we came up with. Some of the images they're just in my house, so you'll have to excuse the fact that they've got like rolls of kitchen paper in the background and things. But I hope you enjoy looking through these.
If I may,
absolutely.
Another reason I wanted these print at large is because I feel these need to be seen in a large format.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we could print them smaller, so they might fit in somebody's house.
Yeah.
But I just felt that to have impact, they would be better viewed in a large format.
I completely agree. I mean, I think that they have to be experienced, not just seen. But when they're as big as they are, and like we say, some of them are 60 inch, which is like 5 foot.
Yes. Yeah.
And it enables you to experience them more than just hand holding a print or even looking at them on the computer screen. So I think your decision is spot on. So moving on from your work, I mean, can you possibly think of any advice for people that are still searching for their own photographic style? I know that you do other work, and I know that this is really just one part of Jack Durner, the photographer. But have you come across any sort of things in your photographic life that lead you to sort of be able to give any advice on that?
Well, yes, I'm certainly still trying to find my way.
Yeah.
Another project that I'm working on is coastal images of long exposure in black and white. And again, I think it has to do with this abstraction that I'm drawn to. And I'm also trying to do some portrait work, which I've done some workshops. I did workshops with Joe McNally.
Oh yeah.
And Tony Corbell.
Nice.
And also, I like Joel Grimes. I like his work. It's very gritty. I like that kind of style.
Yeah.
So I mean, they influence me, but I mean, it just basically comes down to this comes from within me, and I just really just got to follow your own desires and your own interests. And of course, we have photographers that we admire, and we emulate them. But eventually, you just got to shoot from your heart and try not to follow a trend.
Yeah.
Because obviously, there are so many countless amount of images out there now. And if you just follow the trend, well, you're just going to get mixed up in the blender with everybody else.
Yeah.
So you got to just do your own thing.
Yeah. That's a brilliant answer. That's one of the things that I often say as well, shooting from the heart. If you do what you love, you'll excel at it. And so, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I completely waste the opportunity to do street photography living in Tokyo. Because for me, it's not what I love doing. I love looking at street work. And like we were saying earlier, Brian Wood Koiwa's, his street photography is absolutely beautiful. I've got an appreciation for it, and I love looking at it.
Yeah, so
but I don't necessarily want to do it myself.
Again, he has a different way of looking at the street, which I admire about that.
Yeah. And again, he's doing what he loves. He's going out with his camera and just shooting the stuff that attracts him. And I think that is so important. And it leads you to a style. I don't think we develop a style. I think a style finds us and sort of, I mean. I
believe that too.
Yeah.
These images, after printing these up and looking at them in my home here also, it has made me realize, well, this is really what my interest is in. I mean, all the other things aside, such as landscapes, which I love, and portrait photography. But I think this style of mine, what I'm finding, can be applied to these other genres of photography, such as portraiture and landscape.
Yeah, I agree obviously on that as well. I think that as we develop as photographers, one part of our creative self can certainly feed others. I often say that we ratchet up. It's like you have an opportunity to do something, and it sort of it like a jack on a car. You ratchet up, and then something kicks in and holds you there. And then you use that new level of like Jack 2019, to work on the other things that you do. And I think it generally elevates us.
Well, these images certainly have taught me not only the process, but about applying this image, pardon the pun, of abstraction to, again, landscapes and portraiture. I've dabbled in some images where I've what do I want to say? Compositing. And that is also something that I enjoy doing. But I don't want to do a composite where it's just the usual composite. Again, I want a sense of abstraction in there. Excellent.
So is there anywhere, I know that some of this work you're going to be showing at a gallery over the next few months. Is there anywhere that people could go if you were in Japan, where they can go to see your prints?
Well, there is an art festival starting from October 12th in Shibamata. It's called the Shibamata Art World. And if you Google that, you can find the information. That's starting from the 12th and runs for approximately 2 weeks. There are various artists there.
Okay.
And my images are going to be displayed at a friend's gallery. And unfortunately, I don't have a lot of space, so I only can exhibit 3 images. But that's one locale you can go to see them.
Yeah. And you're going to be trying to look for, you've got a few other ideas, haven't you?
Yes. I have my website, jackdurnerphoto.com, which all of these images, I haven't put them up yet. So I'm working on that. That's always a work in progress. There was a gallery that I was hoping to maybe display my images at, but when I inquired about that, the person said, well, the owner doesn't do photography because they don't sell. And I was like, but I've seen photography exhibits here before. And then I showed her this one image here, and she was like, oh, that doesn't look like a photo.
Yeah, right.
So I get that sometimes. People, is that a painting?
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that I can maybe talk with them and do something.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to search for places to exhibit my work.
For the sake of the audience, just to make a comment there about photography not selling. For sure, worldwide, photography doesn't sell as well as painted art and things like that. But Japan is a particularly difficult country to sell photography in because people really don't hang photographic art. You might see it on the walls in cafes and things like that, but it's not a big photography as art country. There's some, but not a lot. And the majority of the photographs that I sell as prints, 99% goes from me someone living in Japan. It goes overseas, so it goes to the US, England.
Well, that's
Australia.
definitely something I have to consider.
But it's like you say, your work doesn't seem like they're more like paintings. They're printed, which is probably in the eyes of the gallery owner is probably again not going to be a brilliant thing to try to sell. But good luck on getting through that, because I believe people will lap this up, and even whether you sell them or not. If you get a venue, if you do get a venue, let us know, and
I will surely do that.
I'll make sure I post that out to the listeners. How much time does each of these images take you? I know that it's a long time. Roughly how much time on average would you say you spent on each of these?
Well, let's go back to the Ascension series. I took those photos probably about 3 years ago. And then I started to work on one image, and the first image probably took 3 to 4 months because I can't just sit down and work through it. You hit kind of a photographer's block. It's like a writer's block. You hit a wall where I just don't like what's happening here, and I'll walk away from it maybe for 2 or 3 weeks, and then come back and then start working it. But once I got that initial image done, then it was a matter of going back to the other ones and then working them and trying to get them as similar as possible. But maybe some of the images I can finish in 2 or 3 weeks. Other ones take months.
Wow. And I obviously we're doing completely different sort of stuff, but some of my images, if it takes me more than a few minutes, I start to get frustrated, and I think, maybe.
Well, certainly then you wouldn't last in what I'm doing.
I honestly don't think I'd have the patience.
I'm not doing this full time, so I can't dedicate a full day to this every day.
So you're talking like 3 months, but it's like an hour here, an hour there. Yeah. Okay, it's still you're
which I like. It's not. I'm not in a rush to finish these, so I finish it when I feel it's done.
Yeah, that's brilliant. We've talked about where people can see. You've got your website, jackdurnerphoto.com. Is there anywhere else that people can contact you? Are you on the social networks and things, or not really?
I am on Instagram. These images are on Instagram at Jack Durner.
Okay. Brilliant.
I have another one called Yagi Bro, but that's just kind of everyday street photography. I like to photograph dogs. I have a dog, and I just like dogs.
Yeah.
And
Why Yagi bro? Yagi is a goat, right?
Yes, Yagi is a goat. And this is kind of a funny story. I had a friend here. He's since returned to Canada, and we both have goatees.
I see.
And so we came up with Yagi Brothers. So I just go by that, Yagi Bro.
Nice. That's cool. Okay. Well, I want to just say quickly before we wrap up here, thank you for not just your custom, your business, with the actual creation of the prints, but I feel as though you've shown me a part of your world that I'm really pleased, just as an artist, to have been able to come into contact with your work and work so closely with you on them. So thanks for working with us on those, but also thank you for coming back a week later and sitting here with me for this conversation.
Well, it's certainly this is a first for me, and it's a pleasure to come in for this and actually talk about what I do. And working with you as a printer has definitely been a learning experience to see the whole process and what really is involved in coming out with the final product.
Yeah, well,
because at the end of the day, the best place to see a print, or excuse me, an image, is on the wall.
I agree. Yeah, I mean they look. And here's one last thing. I mean, I remember as we worked on these prints, a number of times we would see the final print, and you would notice something that you'd not seen before, and that is something that's so important with printing, especially printing large. It shows you things in your images that you didn't even know.
Yes, every time I look at these images, this one in particular, I think it's called Descent to Hades.
Yeah, this is the one that looks like it's a very red background with some blue patches in there. It's probably going to be the last one in the gallery.
Yes, and last night I was looking at it with my girlfriend, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, look at that! I see something in here. I see this in there." I'm like, "Wow, I've never noticed that before."
Yeah.
Again, people see what they want to see based on their own experiences, which is what I want.
Yeah. Do you want to quickly? I remember there was a few of these where you were talking about a science fiction book that you'd read years ago, and the kids all sort of ascended.
Yes, the Ascension series reminded me of that. The book is called Childhood's End, and Kurt Vonnegut, maybe. I forgot the author, but the whole concept of the book was humanity was going through the next step in evolution. These children were being born with special powers of their mind, and at the end, well, I shouldn't. Maybe people should just go out and read it. But this ascension of these souls going off into heaven or into the next level of evolution.
And that's what you saw in
that's
the
what
series.
That's what I saw.
Yeah. So I'll title the images so that you can see what we're talking about. By all means, please go over to the blog. There'll be a gallery of images that are of Jack with the prints, not necessarily all of the photos, but you'll be able to see from them what he's talking about. And it really is very special work. It's been an honor and a pleasure to work with you.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed the whole process of working with you, Martin.
Thank you.
You made these images come out.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, I just definitely, on my printer, I wouldn't be able to do this.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly helps to have, and we should note as well that none of them are wider than 24 inches. So although it's a 44-inch printer, a 24-inch printer would have been enough to do these. But yeah, well, really, thank you so much for your time and the experience.
I really enjoyed this. Okay.
Thank you. So I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Jack Durner as much as I did. I am just jumping in here at the end to let you know that I have placed links into the blog post to a lot of the things that Jack mentioned, and there will be a gallery, so please do go over and check all of that out at mbp.ac/680. Thanks very much for listening today. If you enjoy this podcast, please share a link with your friends. Subscribe in iTunes or your favorite podcast program to ensure uninterrupted delivery. If you have a moment to rate the podcast or leave us a review in iTunes, that helps to keep us relevant in the huge number of podcasts out there now. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn and Instagram, and links to everything that I'm up to are at martinbaileyphotography.com, so do drop by and take a look. I'll be back next week with another episode, but in the meantime, you take care and have a great week, whatever you're doing. Bye bye.